Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks so much, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Banking Reverse Pitch. I'm very excited that you've all been able to join us this evening. I'm Stuart of FinTech Australia, and me alongside our partners, Investment New South Wales, ANZ, Westpac and 1835i, are proud and excited to have you all here this evening. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and today a special mention to the first innovators, inventors and traditional custodians of the land. From ancient superhighways for trade, long-distance communication systems and unique social systems with sustainable agricultural practices and bush medicine, we pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and communities. I am very excited for this initiative. It's been a long time coming, and it is more than pleasing that two of the majors are interested in collaborating with you. A quick note on how things are going to run today. We'll start with the formalities, then we will hear from ANZ, then we'll hear from Westpac, then we will conclude with about 15 minutes of question time. So please get thinking about your questions as the problem statements are being discussed. We'll then break out into about an hour and a half of networking from 6:30, and you'll also have the opportunity to discuss further questions with the execs and leaders at the banks. So those nitty-gritty ones, those specific ones that relate only to your business, you can save for the networking. Also, a big g'day to the 100 or so people who've dialed in online. Thank you so much for your support, and we hope you get a lot out of this as well. Before we uncover more about the bank's problem statements, I have the privilege of welcoming Katie Knight, CEO at Investment New South Wales, to say a few words.
Thank you, Stuart. And welcome to our awesome Sydney Startup Hub. I must say I'm not used to seeing this many suits in this room. I'm used to seeing a lot more trainers and hoodies, but welcome. I even got dressed up for the occasion and I didn't get to wear my flats. So thanks for coming. I love this idea of a reverse pitch. The big brands chasing the big brains. This is super fun. Our FinTech pioneers thrive on a challenge, and selling the problem is a surefire way to get them going, cracking on creative solutions. So the opportunity to work tonight with ANZ and Westpac makes this a really significant initiative with global reach. And my former employer, Westpac, it's nice to see the big brand up there again. So what's the challenge? So reducing fraud and scams for Australians is just one example of a real-world problem facing our major banks, and a problem that has no doubt touched many of us. My mum, the victim of the hi mum scam, thanks a lot, mum, for not believing me. Solving challenges like this will challenge the game and change the game, improving the resilience of the finance sector, empowering our customers and maintaining confidence in the institutions. By engaging with trailblazing startups here in New South Wales and welcoming those from abroad, we can extend the depth and reach of our knowledge and our innovation here in New South Wales. So what's our role? Our role in Investment New South Wales is really to connect the dots. We know that collaboration is key, and this is where we can help. FinTech is a $10 trillion sector here in Australia, and the New South Wales government is helping it to grow. For those dialing in from overseas, Sydney is ranked 11th globally as a FinTech hub, with 60% of Australian FinTech startups based here in New South Wales. Investment New South Wales plays a pivotal role in fostering entrepreneurs through our startup and scale-up hubs like this one, and our innovation districts like Tech Central just down the road. It's been just over 2 years since we launched Tech Central and pitched it to the world as an innovation district. And Tech Central is already home to $68 billion worth of an innovation ecosystem, which includes the global headquarters of 5 Australian unicorns with a combined market value of $89 billion. These are big numbers. The value is enormous. So it's no wonder that it's attracting around $1.3 billion in early stage funding each year. In central Sydney this week, in this place, we mark the 6th birthday of our startup hub, which is currently providing affordable accommodation to 362 startups who are finding their feet and taking their first steps into markets here and across the region. We have an international landing pad here, which offers startups from around the world free co-working space, market information briefings and connections to the local ecosystem. And we also have a regional landing pad for regional businesses looking to come and find a home for a short period of time. Applications are now open for the landing pad, so if you're looking to expand or you know anyone looking to expand here in New South Wales or in Australia, let us know. On the other hand, if you're a FinTech looking to expand further afield, we have opportunities for our upcoming FinTech delegation to the UK and EU, exhibiting at Money 2020 in Amsterdam later this year. So, with that, the New South Wales government, we are really fond and we're really firm about our commitment to technology and innovation. They're pivotal to shaping our future industries, solving challenges and improving outcomes for the people of New South Wales. We're really proud to support cross-collaboration between financial institutions and the startup ecosystem to achieve these goals. I want to congratulate FinTech Australia, ANZ 1835I and Westpac for delivering the first of its kind, the banking reverse pitch here in New South Wales. Can't wait to see the results, and I want to see if we can roll this out into other sectors. It's super exciting. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have fun.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you for your organisation's support as well. And now on to one of the other people who made this all happen, Mr. Rehan Dalmeida, General Manager at FinTech Australia.
Thanks, Steve. I'll stand here as well. I know you're all looking forward to hearing from the banks. I'll keep this short, but unfortunately, you have to hear from me for like 2 minutes. As Stu mentioned, I'm Rehan. I'm the General Manager of FinTech Australia. And who are we? We are the peak advocacy body, a not-for-profit peak advocacy body here to support the FinTech ecosystem. So what do? Our key role is to represent and be the voice of the FinTech ecosystem through policy advocacy, engaging with government and supporting in whatever we can to help you grow and scale. And with that, of course, we run initiatives and events, and some of those key events, one of this, along with that, we do CDR Summit, which we're planning to do towards the end of June. We also have the FINI Awards. I know I've seen a few winners in the room, but the FINI Awards is one of our big awards and recognition event to showcase the success of the FinTech ecosystem this year in Sydney after a while. Also, we have our big conference, the Intersect FinTech Conference, which is in September. And I know a lot of you that participate at the conference, but for whoever else who hasn't been there, highly recommend you attend. And lastly, we're doing a little event, a more targeted event for the Net Zero initiative that we're working on the 12th of March in Sydney. So I really hope you can join us for that as well. So now about the reverse pitch event. Firstly, thank you to Investment New South Wales. I know we met back in June, I think, 2023, to really talk about what can we do that's different to really support the ecosystem. And with that, one of the key areas we noticed was that one of the key areas that we noticed was that fintechs find it extremely challenging to find the pathway to work with these banks and understand what is the approach to work with these banks. And of course, the banks also have the challenge of shortlisting and finding the best solutions in the market when they're looking for solutions to their problems. So how can we bridge this gap? Of course, the banking reverse pitch. And it's been incredible, the traction we've got in the space. We've heard from companies globally reaching out to us, asking about how they can participate. So I really hope through this initiative, the banks get some really good solutions that we can showcase. Also, this has not been successful without the community. So it was not just the four of us, the four organizations come together. We've had a lot of support from the other organizations that I can't even list out, but we've had other industry associations, other corporate partners, and other trade bodies and trade and investment bodies that have supported us through this event. So I really want to thank you all, because this was a community-led initiative for the ecosystem, and yeah, I'm grateful for it all. But it doesn't end here, of course. It's not just this event and then we all go home and clap our hands and pat ourselves on the back, I hope. We want to continue learning from this and building from this, hopefully welcoming other banks, scaling this up, reaching out to other industries. FinTech is such a broad space, so going across the board and supporting this ecosystem. And also, I'm most looking forward to the solutions that come out of this and what can we learn from those solutions and bring those use cases up on stage as well. So I wish you all here the best, those online and in person. Please take advantage of this evening. If you have any questions or clarifications, I hope you get that addressed today. If you cannot, we have the online portal as well. Please reach out. We'll forward it to the relevant people to be able to answer those questions as well. Anyway, good luck and thank you again.
Thank you, Rehan. So we're almost there. We're about to get into it. I think as we go through the pitches from ANZ and Westpac, especially if you're a founder and you are constantly pitching or constantly raising, just sit back, take it in, and really appreciate this. Didn't expect a laugh. Thank you. So we're going to start with ANZ, and I'd like to welcome Philippa Campbell, Head of Transaction Banking, to kick us off. Thanks, Philippa.
Thanks so much. Whoop, can we use that there? Thank you. That's okay. I'll just hold it.
Yeah, that's better.
Great. Well, look, thank you so much for having us here tonight. When ANZ was approached by the New South Wales Government and FinTech Australia to participate in this event, we saw it as a great opportunity to both support the objectives for not only building the thriving FinTech community in which everyone wants to invest in and support, but also helping our customers solve some of their big and hairy problems. This is ANZ and New South Wales Government share a strong and aligned sense of purpose to shape a better world for our citizens and our communities, and we're committed to help to achieve the great outcomes for the citizens of New South Wales. This initiative isn't just about solving problems, but also about supporting Australian businesses and, of course, the FinTech community. We understand the importance of continuing to innovate in the capabilities and services for our customers. And at ANZ, we've invested really heavily in dedicated innovation teams, technologies and partners, and our sandpits so we can explore new concepts with people like yourselves. We believe by collaborating the broader business and the FinTech community in this initiative, we can co-create more innovative solutions together to really help the community and in solving some of these problems. So this is the first event of this kind, which is incredible. I've certainly been in the room with perhaps people like yourselves before, and you've been in the room with people like us, on the other side of the table where you've pitched your ideas. We're really excited to hopefully narrow down some of the problems, the big statements that our customers are looking to solve, and we're looking to solve with them together with you. So we look forward to hearing some of those submissions over the next month or so. We cast our net wide across the organisation to come up with our problem statements at ANZ, and we're focused on our corporate community tonight in solving how do we help them transition away from cheques, which is now what we're doing in this country, to reduce cybersecurity risks, in particular for cross-border payments, which is a particular risk and threat for our community, and supporting those businesses, those corporate customers in their ambitions to navigate through their climate change commitments. So as a sign of our commitment to this evening and this initiative, we've partnered with our investment partner, 1835i, who are here tonight, who will support us with any proof of concepts that we may look to further explore after this evening. So I'd just like to extend again a warm welcome to you all, and thank you to those within ANZ, and thank you to FinTech Australia and Investment New South Wales for involving ANZ in this fantastic initiative. We look forward to seeing those a range of creative initiatives coming forward and ideas on how we can solve these very big problems that continue to evolve across the Australian corporate community. So thanks very much, Stuart. I'm going to hand over to Carolyn to take you through our very first problem statement on removing cheques.
Thanks, Pip.
I'm Carolyn Young. I head up the payments and cash management product organisation within transaction banking, and I'm in the business of solving customer problems, and that's why I'm here to talk to you, because I want your help in solving our problem. And I realise that, I'm talking about helping customers transition away from cheques. And then I thought, well, perhaps some of you may not have actually seen or touched a cheque. So I brought one along just in case. If you'd like to touch it, end of the session, feel free to come up and talk to me then, and you can lay your eyes on one. And I've dropped my notes. So yes, I mean, we're here to talk about cheques, and there's clearly still some use in the ecosystem. Our customers, predominantly in the business and corporate and institutional world, still rely on cheques somewhat to make their payments. The payments landscape has clearly transformed though, but they're still holding on to these instruments as a way to affect their value transfer to their customers, to third parties, to vendors, etc. And somewhat because they are reliant on a process that they're using, they're obligated through legislation, they have a personal preference, maybe who they're paying, is not a known party, so it's quite simple to do so. So it's really something that's quite, still prevalent despite the decline in volume. So I'm not going to lie, over the last 10 years, 90% of utilisation has dropped. And so there is, significantly lower volume compared to 40, 50 years ago, under which the legislation has held the cheques onto. But there is still a residual use that our customers are continuing to do and use. So like I said, there's preferences, but there's also challenges for some that are not able to seek alternatives because they are reliant on technical or connectivity infrastructure to support their needs. They may be in rural or remote areas. They may be constrained by other technological or digital proficiency issues. So there's a range of challenges they're facing into in order to move away from cheques and relying on that piece of paper. Because the piece of paper is really quite useful, right? It serves a purpose. It's simple to use. For a payer's perspective, all they need is a name to make that payment, and they can hand it over in person or simply pop it in the mail. So from their, lens, it is quite straightforward and it's difficult to move away. So how do we find alternate and interesting ways for them to perhaps move to more cost-efficient, secure and efficient means to make that value transfer? We still see the prevalence of cheque through situations where they don't know the recipient as well as they should, perhaps. So like I said, that simplified payment addressing is really the key problem statement that we'll be interested in your views on. How to make a payment to someone who perhaps you only know their name. Perhaps you might have their address. You don't have any other digital details. You don't have their bank account. So is there a means and way to solve for that? The other scenario that we still see, some challenges with through providing them some value so that they can perhaps remove themselves from the circumstances that they're currently situated in. So, as I talked about, there are still some real value that cheques provides for certain customers in the business sector that they serve a certain purpose. They are quite embedded into their process and so you need to find the appeal and the value for them to move away from that process because that requires investment and change. And there are certainly situations where we need to take a step back and appreciate that business process is something that they'll need a lot of support with. And then particularly given there is now, a proposed time frame from the Federal Treasury around the strategic roadmap for payments, with the aspiration of removing cheques from the industry by 2030. So we have a real timeline for which we need to solve this problem for, and I'm really encouraging and embracing your ideas and how we can get there. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. I don't have any checkbook props, unfortunately, but okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jarrod Cassidy. I'm the head of strategic partnership origination within transaction banking at ANZ. A bit of a mouthful of a title, but I am a banker. That's what we do. So in this problem statement, we are seeking to address a really critical issue which faces all of us, which is cybercrime. It's a really insidious threat to our society, to our community. It continues to grow. It impacts everyone, whether they be businesses or individuals. I've read some reports that the impacts of Australian economies, as an example, upwards of $30 to $40 billion per annum, and growing at a rate of around 10 to 15%. For businesses, alarmingly, about a quarter of Australian businesses have reported a attack, some sort of cybersecurity attack. The average cost of those attacks is around $270,000. Half of the cost is being spent on detection and retrieval activities. So you can appreciate the size of the problem and the burden on Australian businesses. Now, our problem statement's about payments, and in particular cross-border payments. When it comes to payments fraud, businesses, regardless of their size, becoming increasingly vulnerable to very sophisticated scams. Cyber criminals are becoming smarter, more evolved, using more emerging technologies like AI as part of their attacks as well. When you think about cross-border payments, the problem starts to escalate. It's a lot more elevated, and that's due to complexity in international payment processing, multitude of banks, counterparties, and so on. Domestically, you would have hopefully seen the industries coming together, the banks coming together to solve for being able to confirm payee for payments domestically. Internationally, that challenge is huge. You're talking about thousands of banks. You're talking about a far more complex challenge. So combating this issue, I think, requires a really proactive effort and a very collaborative approach. And I really welcome the opportunity that FinTech Australia and Invest New South Wales has enabled today with us participating to come together and try to solve this problem. ANZ, like Westpac, like all of the financial institutions, we are continuously investing in cybersecurity measures, but we see this as a great opportunity to really broaden our thinking and see what clever ideas this community can come up with. I won't read through the whole problem statement. You've seen it on our webpage. In short, we are looking for solutions that help our customers reduce the amount of risk in payments as it relates to cross-border by being able to pre-validate the beneficiary of those payments. There's a second part to that problem statement as well, which is about helping our customers to remove operational inefficiencies and costs that are associated with delays in international payments, which might be a result of incorrect details or misdirected payments as well from the customer's perspective. So just to paint a very quick picture on the types of problems that business customers in particular are facing into. Business email compromise is one of those. So this is where a customer supplier may have had their systems or commonly email channels intercepted, and the impersonating that supplier to change vendor details, account details, and so on. Executive email fraud, similar to the first one, typically where a executive might have their email systems penetrated and then impersonating the executive to ask a finance member, accounts payable team to make a fraudulent payment. Malicious insider fraud happens regularly, not regularly, unfortunately still happens today. This could be a malicious staff member looking to alter payments processes, create fictitious invoices, fictitious vendors, and so on. So they're the sort of some of the ones we're seeing from a corporate business perspective. The consumer ones, individual retail examples, I'm sure you're all very aware of already. So areas for interest for us, we're interested in both outward payments and inward payments. From an outward perspective, we're looking for solutions that can enable us to pre-validate prior to the payment while the customer's within the payment experience, where they can pre-validate whether or not a payment has been altered or not. From an inward perspective, we are also interested in being able to offer services to our counterparty banks that are sending payments that might enable them to pre-validate as well. So lots of features that we've posted in our problem statements. It's not an exhaustive list. Some of them are important to us. As I've said, we want features that can enable us to validate a beneficiary account name, account details, payment details are correct and accurate. Any solutions that might throw up some signals, for example. So being able to identify whether a payment is fraudulent, what's the probability of it being fraudulent, is there a mule account being used in the transaction, and so on. So I'm sure there's lots of ideas and come up with there. We're interested in the UX experience as well. So this needs to be something that can be surfaced up either within the banking channel. Equally, it could be surfaced up in a customer's finance ERP system, or could be a standalone platform. Solutions could be for B2B payments. It could equally be for consumer payments or B2C payments. Needs to be immediate, real-time responses while the customer's in that payment experience. And think broadly, if you have some interesting technology that leverages AI or digital assets, asset tokenization that might lend itself to a solution here, we're interested in those as well. So look, it is a bit of a list. There's probably more things that we could add to that list. We don't expect any one organisation here to necessarily solve the whole problem. We might be able to solve a particular scenario, might be able to solve part of the problem. We're interested in proposals that could be those as well. So that's that problem statement. I'll hand over now to Cindy from our commercial team, who will talk through ANZ's last problem statement.
Thank you. Thanks, Jarrod. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Arthur, and I am the Head of Strategy and Performance in the Commercial Division for ANZ. Essentially, I've been spending a lot of time on this over the last 6 months, so supporting climate adaptation for our businesses. When we say businesses and corporate, that's very big range. That's everything from small, medium to large listed companies across various sectors, various sizes, sophistication. So really important in the context of the problem statements today. So some background, some context for you. The Australian government's made some really important climate change commitments. And in light of that, customers of ours, our businesses, are now feeling more demand from the government and investors and staff and consumers to centre their businesses around having a positive environment and social impact. And with the rise of our climate events and the change in the weather, there is a physical aspect and a physical risk that our businesses face, especially when you think about location. So we at ANZ recognise that they are facing into that challenge, as well as the transition to net zero, as we call it as a bank, the transition risk. So that is a very important. We see our role at ANZ in supporting our customers to future-proof their businesses in that context. And most importantly, we ourselves have also made a climate commitment, and that's, under the Net Zero Banking Alliance. So we are committed to helping all of our customers transition to net zero, as we believe that will make sure that they are sustainable for the future. So the challenge to you, it's a big one. Can you help ANZ business customers better understand and manage their physical or their transition risks which means reducing their carbon emissions through a scalable, innovative green technology that can serve both local and export markets from Australia. So I'm just going to take a moment to think about that in a real life scenario. I mentioned the weather. So when we talk about climate, you know, the physical risks of climate could be acute or chronic. So acute could be bushfires, floods and droughts, whereas chronic is more long-term effects of rising temperature and sea levels and biodiversity loss. So what does that mean as a business owner? And again, the context of the scale of customers we serve. How do they know? Where's the access to the information and the data that they need to make informed decisions about location or mitigating those risks to their business? And how do they, how can they mitigate business continuity? Because if you think about damage to assets or supply chain disruptions, and we saw that with COVID, so how can we help our customers with that, giving them access to that data to make their informed decisions that they need to? We all need to do our part in reducing our carbon emissions, and early adopters we've seen are benefiting from the opportunity that presents. But again, we believe that all of our customers should have the opportunity to participate in that, as it remains a protection of their competitive advantage. So we are interested in impactful technology-based solutions, software or hardware focused on these key areas. So rapidly provide ANZ customers with the data to be able to determine the physical impacts of a future climate event, which will empower them with knowledge to make informed decisions about location. And in turn, if we could have this integrated into our banking system, we can then support them in a timely fashion, which is something we're very passionate about doing, and we do all the time when these events occur. But to really be proactive in that would be a game changer for us. We'd also like to see solutions that could accelerate the adoption and sustainable and regenerative practices for businesses that are reliant on nature, because with climate, there's also a big nature as an extension of climate. And thirdly, around measuring and reducing emissions, because businesses are feeling the demand to calculate, reduce, and report. There's the ever-evolving legislation and regulation coming into effect, where our customers will certainly need that information, especially in the first instances of supply chains. So we have similar to what Jarrod said, a whole list of features that we're interested in seeing. Again, it's non-exhaustive. This is, evolving for us as well. So I'm not standing up here as any expert at all, but certainly, again, the key themes around measuring the impact of the carbon emissions. How does that data present itself through API or batch? It has to have some geospatial element to it. Leveraging AI, digital assets, and cloud technologies, especially around providing education and training. So if we move away from the technical aspects, that's something that certainly our smaller customers would certainly value, the insights and data that they could have to better manage their businesses, and any monitoring and tracking tools at the same time. So I think I might leave it there, and I'm going to hand it now to David.
Thanks, Cindy. I didn't realize how simple my slide is compared to everyone else's slides that you've seen so far, with not very many words. So I'm really excited and delighted to be here today. I think it's a great opportunity to see how large organizations can leverage the power and speed of smaller organizations to try to work together, to collaborate and partner, and really solve problems that make an impact to the industry and to our community. Thanks again, Pip, Carolyn, Jarrod, and Cindy for doing an amazing job articulating the problem statements. Hi, everyone. My name is David Lee, and I am the head of FinTech and Ecosystem Partnerships at 1835i. For those of you who don't know, 1835i, we are ANZ's innovation partner. So our job is to work very deeply in the ecosystem to really understand all the nuances of founders, their pain points, what they need, how they're getting support, what type of support they need, to really help you collaborate with ANZ more effectively. We help founders in two ways. We have a lab that we use to effectively run experiments with you as founders and ANZ, and our ventures team that's designed effectively to inject capital to support the scale and growth of early stage and late stage companies. We really believe in backing the companies that we believe in, and that's why we're very committed to working with the ecosystem today. We're a pretty diverse bunch. We have people that are ex-founders who have built and scaled businesses domestically here in Australia as well as internationally. We have people that are active in the ecosystem, whether that's in mentoring form or investing directly through angel investments. So some of us invest our own money into the ecosystem. Also within the team, we have a lot of experience working with helping businesses grow and scale their companies as well. So we've got a portfolio of businesses that we've invested in. We have people that have expertise in marketing and communication, human capital, customer research and product development through to finance and legal support as well. So a lot of the work that we do with the ecosystem and with companies within our portfolio, it's more than just investing. It's really helping to solve all of the gaps and issues that, you know, first-time founders or second-time founders really struggle with their business, all the way through when they scale. How do we help them run their businesses in a way that's, I guess, secure, stable, and compliant as well? So I think what's probably important for you to know as part of today is if you are selected into the process, you will be working with 1835I and ANZ. And so what I thought might be useful is to come up with 6 dimensions that we feel are important to help you best position and put your best foot forward for your submissions. So the first thing that we'd like to really understand is your team. We love working with people personally. We know that while an idea can be great, it really comes down to the team. So what we'd love to hear from you is what makes you the best team? What's the experience that you have? What's the subject matter expertise? What makes you the strongest team that we should be working with? The second thing that we'd like to see is your value proposition, or what makes you unique. So tell us a little bit more about your secret sauce. Is it in your technology? Is it in your approach? Is it in your culture? Or is it in your people? So what makes you different to the competitors? The third dimension is customer centricity. Customer centricity is deeply ingrained in how we operate at 1835I and at ANZ. And so we'd love to hear about how that's ingrained in your company. How often do you engage with your customers? How do you validate product market fit? When have you pivoted? Have you had to pivot? And how do you know what you're creating today meets customers' demands today, but also the future needs tomorrow as well? And the common theme for the event, naturally, is all about collaboration. So tell us the stories about your collaboration experience so far, whether they have been with small companies, large organizations, domestically here in Australia or internationally. How have they been? What challenges did you face and how did you overcome them? And more importantly, how would you like to collaborate differently next time? What were the learnings that you had in your end? And obviously, outcome focus, execution focus is a very important part for us. We don't like writing fancy PowerPoint presentations. I do write really polished PowerPoint presentations, but it's all about delivering real outcomes and impact to customers. So tell us about how you remain focused in your company. What successes or wins have you had? And how do you manage the tension between having a defined strategy and adapting to the pace of change? And then finally, value for you. This is probably the most important dimension. How can we help you? You know, it's a pretty difficult question, right? But don't just think short term, be creative and think long term. What are the gaps in your business that, while you're really great at, what are the gaps that you think we can help you with? And more importantly, what kind of unfair advantage can we offer you to help you propel your business into the future? Because your success is our success too. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. And before I wrap up, I just want to say good luck to everyone with your submissions. The team will be around for the rest of the day if you want to connect with us. If you want to connect with people from 1835I, we have a little t-shirt here as well. So there's a few of us floating around. Otherwise, good luck to everyone. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of your submissions and all of your applications. And I'm really excited to look forward to working together with you to push the boundaries of banking and financial services. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David, Cindy, Jarrod, Carolyn, and Pip. That was great. And thank you very much to ANZ and 1835i. So we've heard about cybersecurity risk in international payments, climate change and adaptation, and check use, whatever they are. But we're going to move on. So we're going to get into Westpac. We're going to get into the second half. Please consider your questions. Keep them in mind for later on. But we'll get into Westpac to start off with. And I'd like to welcome David Walker, Chief Technology Officer at the Westpac.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's well. Look, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'd like to say thank you for ANZ sharing the stage on this important thing as well. So I'm here to talk a little bit about Westpac. I'm very proud to be representing Westpac today, but one of the things I want to do is reverse pitch to you Westpac. So you're about to hear from my colleagues about some ideas, but why Westpac? So when we think about how we're going to innovate inside Westpac, we started up this thing called Growth Labs, Westpac Growth Labs. It's an internal unit that is all about this core tenet that everyone can innovate. And the whole purpose of them to exist, the main purpose, I should say, is to enable the whole organization to bring their ideas and create that innovation environment. That means sorting out all the things, the roadblocks that a large organization like us would have to ensure that we can make it easy for ourselves to innovate. And the benefit of that comes to you, because if we can do it to ourselves, we hopefully can give you that right environment as well. And so creating that whole space for fintechs to be successful inside Westpac is something that we're very focused on. In my career, I spent about 10 years pretty much in your seat, running a small business, creating ideas, pitching them to large corporations. And so understanding a little bit about where you are is helping us shape that story. And when I think about it, there are many things that need to be true, but I'll just highlight 3 of the things that I think are important of why we need to be right for you, the right fit for you. The first of those is we need to provide a marketplace for your great idea. And that's not that easy, right? Quite often, we have these great ideas come up, but we're not ready for them, or vice versa all the time. And it's that trying to find that magical intersection where ideas and the timing for large organization works. And so that's one great thing about this. At least we've got a ready-made market for you. These 3 ideas are ready to go. So it's a really cool idea in that aspect. But obviously, we're not working on 3 ideas. We're working on thousands of ideas inside a bank. So there's lots of opportunities with inside Westpac to bring ideas forward. But we're here to create that marketplace. That's number 1. The second one, which I think is really important, and some of you will agree with this, some of you possibly not, and that is that we're a great cultural fit, that we have the same principles and the same moral standards, and that we've got the same ethics. It's really important. I know when I joined Westpac, part of me personally joining Westpac was because of who they are as a company. That they had a social responsibility, they took the environment properly, and they worked on all these things to make diversity an important topic, et cetera, et cetera. And so I hope that especially as small companies, quite often you treat that, or you have that as a very high important thing as well. And so hopefully that you see us as a partner in that same thing. And the very last thing I'd say that's important is that we make it easy for you to work with us. And I know that there'll be some people sort of cringing about that, because I'm sure you've come into large companies all the time and it is tough, right? And I think, part of what our job at Westpac, and certainly around Growth Labs and the team here, is to try and make it easy for you to work with us. And we're completely working to break down those barriers all the time. So you're about to hear 3 interesting pitches all around sustainability and fraud. We want to eliminate fraud and we want to fix the environment. We're pretty ambitious around those things. And we're pretty excited to hear what you've got for us. As I'm sure ANZ are too, this is an important activity for us. We're investing our time and focus on you. So we're really excited about what you've got, and keen, and just wish you all luck and success. So Ben, you're going to go hit us with some fraud.
Thank you, David. Thank you all. Yeah, so my name is Ben Young. I'm from Westpac's fraud department. You can imagine the fraud department's a fairly tech-heavy part of the bank. And I would say my pitch is perhaps a little bit different to the others. Maybe it's a bit too detailed. I'll try and stay within the time limit. But I'm going to describe for you a little bit of the problem that we face. I would say that it's very consumer focused. So perhaps a lot of you know a lot about how fraud works. You certainly may have experienced it. Credit card fraud is still probably the #1 sort of bad thing that can happen to you in terms of money being taken from your account. But I'm actually not going to talk about credit card fraud at all. In fact, I'm not even going to talk about fraud at all. And I say that because I'm going to talk about scams. And just to give you a bit of definitional stuff there. So inside a bank, we use fraud and scam to mean two quite distinct things. Fraud is like credit card fraud, where someone other than you takes your money. Usually credit card fraud, but it can be internet banking fraud and other lesser frequent events. But a scam is when you willingly part with your own money. So you get an email saying you've won $50 million in a Nigerian lottery, you just need to send $10,000 to pay the taxes, and then you'll get all the money. Then you got scammed, and that's how we describe them as different. And you can see that for fraud, something has been breached. Your credit card has been copied, or your internet banking has been hacked, or your checkbook has been stolen. That still happens. Rarely, it still happens. If we can solve that, that'd be great. Whereas for a scam, nothing is breached. There's nothing broken about your internet banking. There's no banking security feature that's been compromised. It's just a breach of your mind. So we're in the market for any mind reading software you might have, sort of. All right, let me talk you through. And so really I'm going to do is now just a deep dive on scams. And a lot of it you may well recognize, but I'll just talk you through it anyway. So we have scammers. We have customers. We also have business customers, and the hacker I'll come to in a minute. And I'm sure you've received your daily SMS scam telling you you've got a postage delivery, or someone you failed to pay a road toll, for example. So scammers send lots and lots of text messages. They also make cold calls, and they send text messages asking you to call them back. So lots of calls to and from, lots of text messages to and from. They also make cold approaches on WhatsApp. They will also take scammers, if they've engaged you in some other forum, they will take you on to things like WhatsApp, where they can chat to you in a more private way. We have social media platforms like Facebook, where we see lots and lots of false advertising for investment opportunities is a big one on here, where ads are just presented to you. But really any social media platform, the moment it is created, there will be scammers on there. You can be playing online Scrabble, and someone goes, hey, good word, let's have a chat, and they'll play a long game to get you with a romance scam or some other thing. So every new platform, there are more scams. There'll also be, sometimes they'll just sort of do a lie in wait type scam, where you set up a fake investment website and just wait for it to be Google searched, and then you come to them, which is a great scam technique, because then it feels like they didn't approach me, I approached them. So this one can be very effective and expensive. We also have, as Jarrod mentioned, business customers send emails to consumers asking for invoices to be paid, and you can often get hackers intercepting those emails and changing the bank account details. And Jarrod mentioned it's a big deal for us too. Surprisingly, still not that well understood in the business community. Okay, I think obviously in the last year or two in Australia particularly, you've seen lots of big PII hacks against businesses as well. You do see, obviously there's lots of extortion attempts for that PII, which we've all seen. But in addition to that, what we tend to see is that data gets sold to other people that create fake bank accounts with it, or they do other things too. But they'll open up false accounts in your name, and they will use that to be a money mule, which is what we're going to come to. So in addition to creating fake accounts, they will also groom people, real people, to become money mules. So a romance scam or a job scam, the things you walk past on the telegraph pole, says work at home, get paid to do nothing. Those are you being recruited to be a money mule. So largely this is all work that can be done upfront. So scammers do this for weeks, months in advance, working on this poor customer down here who's under quite a bit of attack. And then they will pull the trigger and ask you to send money. And without sounding defensive about it, while we all know this is going on, we all experience this personally, what the bank sees is this. We don't have a sense of any of this. We just see you making a transfer. So if Bank A was Westpac and say ANZ was over here, we can reverse them. Then you see this. They'll pay the false account or the real account people. Increasingly, certainly over the last couple of years, we've seen that they bypass that process altogether, and ANZ's off the hook. Just goes straight to the crypto exchange. You'll have seen some movements in this space in the last year or two, so that has reduced somewhat, but certainly as a second hop, that's common as well. And then from the crypto exchange back to the scammer. So this is a huge oversimplification, to be honest. I've left out a couple of quite important points, but you can see there's a lot going on. And people say, why are scams so bad? And just for contrast, I just have another slide that I show, which is sort of scamming. Actually, you don't have to go back to the 90s, but back in the day, for those of you old enough to remember, scammers would send you a physical letter with Nigerian letterhead on it and had to convince you to walk to the bank and withdraw cash and walk it over to Western Union and wire it to them. They might make a phone call, but these things were very expensive and hard to do, and you had plenty of time to think about it and talk to your friends and go, it doesn't sound right. So it wasn't nearly as successful as it is now, compared to the way it is now, where telephony is essentially free. I can call any human being from any part of the world and talk to them for an infinite amount of time for nothing, as well as send them unlimited text messages and emails. So just the attack surface against the customer is so much greater. I just thought I'd give you a breakdown of this is actually a few months old now. These numbers do move around a little bit, but investment scams is very, very big in terms of dollars. Business email compromise is a big deal. This number does come and go. It actually, to be honest, it's probably gone up a little bit since then. BEX is a big problem globally of late, but they all come and go. So yeah, look, I mean, I really wanted to show you the ecosystem just to have a sense that there's people working in all this space. We have lots of fintechs and large corporations, and of course the banks themselves working to collaborate to solve those problems. But any part of this is effective, a battleground to try and combat scams, which at the moment in Australia is sort of rounded to the nearest billion. So it's not a trivial problem to try and solve. That's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. I think I might turn my phone off forever after that. Cool. I've got the slide clicker, don't I? No, you're right. I got it. I can work it. I'm a millennial. All right. I'm going to start with a crazy idea. Sustainability is good for business. We'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, but first, who am I? My name's Anthony Parker, and I'm the service owner for ESG here at Westpac within our business lending business. So in business lending, we look after, again, a really broad range of business customers, small businesses, SMEs, right up to large corporates. All are unique, all have their own problems, and it's the same for sustainability. We're trying to work out how we can best support our customers. I'm not going to read my problem statement. You can all read, I hope. So I'm going to talk to you about a customer story to illustrate exactly what we mean. We work with a customer who's an independent school, and they have the ambition of becoming the first net zero school in Australia. So it's a great ambition, right? And we do some great work with them. We support them with finance, and we also support them with some other things. But they're a reasonably sophisticated business. They have scale, they have staff, they have capital, so they're able to think about these things. Importantly, they have one really impactful individual on the inside who's the school business manager, and he's really driving that sustainability agenda. The business manager understands that sustainability is good for business. With a bit of time and a little bit of money, they're able to improve the energy efficiency of their school, which helps their bottom line. They're able to include the students in the journey, educate them, and they're also able to entwine themselves with the community in which they operate. On our side at the bank, I mentioned we support them with finance, but we also support them with insight, advice. We help them develop their business cases to access government grants and alternative models of funding to make it an even more attractive proposition. It's a really good customer service experience that we're able to provide. We have a relationship manager who's awesome. We have a support team in the background who are deep experts in the products that we provide, and that's excellent. But the problem is, how do we do that for all of our customers? That's a question. I'm open to answers on this, right? And that's the crux of the problem statement. I'll talk to you a bit more about that, but how do we scale that level of service, insight, education to all of our customers, right down to the mums and dads who are running a small little corner shop who have an interest in sustainability, right up to our large corporates. I know we talk a little bit about small business in the problem statement, but I'm really open to suggestions and ideas and creative solutions that support all business customers. It's a difficult thing to do. Small business customers in particular, they don't have the time to take a step back from their business, look at it end to end and say, actually, you know what? If I put some solar panels in today, I'd save 10% of my energy. They don't have the time to do that, and they don't necessarily have the spare cash to do it either. They don't know that they can come and talk to their bank, and they don't know what it would mean if they did have that conversation. So that's the crux of our problem statement. We know from our research that small business customers really care about sustainability. We know that they know their customers care about sustainability. And we also know that they know their supply chain partners care about sustainability as well. There are increasing expectations that they're being asked to meet, and they don't know how to do it. They know that sustainability is good for business. We know it. It's about how do we get that information in their hands. So really, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's self-evident in the problem statement. We're looking for creative solutions, and we're in the market for creative solutions to help us have even better conversations with our customers. And really, over to you guys. I'm all ears if you have any great ideas.
Hi everyone, I'm Rose Pan. I am leading the product development arm of the mortgage line of business. So I might just start by setting the scene a little bit. In July 2022, Westpac joined the UN-convened Net Zero Banking Alliance. And what that means for us is not only reducing our own carbon footprint, but also helping our customers transition to net zero as well. And a good place to start is with our homeowners. So currently, 10% of total emissions in Australia is from the home, and more than 60% of Westpac's lending is in the mortgage business. So towards the end of last year, we set an ambitious target to reduce our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions for our residential mortgage portfolio by 56% in 2030. When we look at energy efficiency, we know that today most of the homes that are currently built will exist in 2050. So it's important not just to look at energy efficiency of new builds, but also retrofitting existing builds to be climate ready. This is one of the reasons why NatHERS ratings, which have traditionally been for new builds, is being expanded to existing builds by mid-2025. The good news is that when we research customers, more than 40% of those customers want to make sustainable improvements to their home. So the question is, how do we actually translate that interest into a tangible action? For Westpac, this means looking at not just financing, because that's probably the obvious choice for a bank, but also looking at the holistic customer journey. So when we're looking at the holistic customer journey, we think about three broad opportunities for customers. The first one is around how we can provide customers with really tailored recommendations as to what they can do to improve the sustainability of their home. It's not necessarily a cookie cutter approach or one size fits all. And a really good example is with solar panels. So solar panels, if you've got a really small roof, you've got a huge tree overhanging your roof and it's south facing, solar panels is probably not the solution for you. So how do we actually help customers narrow down the solution that is most suited for their particular home? And how do we do that with reliable, personalised insights? So we know based on research, whilst customers really want that feel-good reason of improving their home, improving environment, they really want to know what's the return on investment as well. So how can we provide those insights around the cost of the improvement and the payback period, and also the savings that they would make in terms of energy bills. The second key opportunity is around connecting customers to the relevant government incentives and rebates, which might be relevant for them. And there are some great government incentives out there, and I'm not just saying that because New South Wales government is in the room. But how do we actually serve those to customers in the right point in their journey? So they know that they might install solar panels, or they might install a heat pump. How can we actually serve up that information to them? Because there are so many different eligibility rules that apply across different states, different federal schemes. This is really important, especially in this climate where the cost of living is increasing, because this will help customers actually bring forward the payback period on those investments. The third key opportunity that we see is around how we actually tie this all in with NatWest ratings. So as we head to 2030, there's going to be an increasing focus on how we can make homes climate ready. We see the climate readiness of a home, or the energy efficiency of a home, playing a really key factor in the decision-making process when customers actually come to buying their home. What we think will happen is when a customer goes to purchase their home, when they're comparing house A to house B, they will be looking at their energy efficiency score. So how can we actually help customers get a really good indication of what their estimated NatWest rating might be for their home, but also the type of improvements and where those improvements will potentially take them in terms of NatWest star ratings? So those are probably the key opportunities that we see. So just to replay, really tailored approach to the type of recommendations that would benefit a specific customer's home. Second one is connecting customers to those relevant government incentives and rebates at the right time in their journey. The third one is really around tying in NatWest ratings, giving customers a view of what their current NatWest ratings might look like, but also their NatWest ratings into the future. With that, I'll hand you over to Rod.
Thank you. Thanks, Rose. Okay, I'm going to close Westpac's segment out tonight. So my name is Rod Elliott. I'm from Growth Labs that David mentioned earlier, and I'm basically part of the team that does, basically faces off against the external community and basically facilitates all those partnerships that we've been hearing about. So it's honestly been amazing to see everybody here tonight. It's excellent process, and I'm really glad that we've had the opportunity to kind of convey the three problem statements that we've had here. For us, my thinking, standing back from this just a shade, is that these topics are very topical and they're genuine issues that are facing both the industry and Australians more broadly. So we're genuinely looking forward to collaborating with the external community on this, and looking forward to solving these problems with you. Like Investment New South Wales, we're really keen to see the ecosystem, for fintechs growing here in New South Wales. So our thoughts, and plans are very much aligned, and we think that there's a lot of opportunities that can stem from that. So I think the reverse pitch, is an excellent catalyst for that. Before we close, I thought I'd just touch upon a few things in a similar manner to what David has done. Similar, I suppose, what we're looking for is highly comparable, but strategic alignment is absolutely, one of the starting points. Obviously, we're looking for a very strong team to partner with. We're looking for partners who can genuinely scale with us, not just from a technology point of view, but also from an operational perspective. Commercially sound principles, both within the business itself, ensuring that you're going to be there for the long term with us, and very sensible contracts between us. Ultimately that's something that does manifest for us every day, something that we look for. We're a bank, so as Rose was alluding to, financing is only part of the picture. So we need complementary capabilities to kind of weave in with our capabilities. We have our strengths, you have yours. So that's something we're absolutely looking for, those complementary capabilities and those points of differentiation, so that we can really come up with something entirely new together. I'll touch upon technology, but this is a room that's quite well versed in that, I'm sure. platforms, true platforms, are something that are a natural fit for us. It's not necessarily mentioned in this right-hand list, but platforms are genuinely something that we look for. That might be SaaS, it might be something, or it could be something else as well. But platforms are pretty key, so it becomes a natural starting point. The maturity of an organization from a security point of view, from an integration perspective, partnerships, in my mind, have become a lot about integration. How do you weave an ecosystem together? How do you weave multiple partners together? Many in the room might be thinking about just bilateral arrangements. I'm actually thinking possibly about multilateral arrangements. So often propositions come to bear, with multiple partners, and that's when you get something truly new and unique when you bring it to market. So there's some of the things that we're looking for. We're very much looking for these open, collaborative conversations, really looking for people to reach out. We also will be here for the networking drinks, so please come and say hello, reach out. And I wanted to close by saying our thank yous. So thank you to Katie, thank you to Investment New South Wales for inviting us to participate. Rehan, Stuart, and the FinTech Australia team, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for kind of coordinating the whole process. And also Jarrod, David, Pip, and the wider team. It's been a pleasure working with ANZ on this as well. So thank you so much. Lastly, Climate Salad. It's brilliant to. This is one of the first times we're really kind of starting to bring in clean techs into this process. So that's a new arrangement for us. Really looking for kind of the clean tech community to kind of come and reach out to us as well. So this is definitely about fintech, but it's also about clean tech, and that's kind of a new chapter for probably all of us in the industry at large. So I'll leave it at that. It's been a pleasure to be involved in the 2024 version of this event. So thank you. Back to you, Stuart.
Great. Thank you so much to the team at Westpac for your contributions, and to Rod, Rose, Anthony, Ben, and David. Thank you very much. I'm actually going to welcome you all back to the floor. We're going to get into the Q&A shortly. We'll just grab some stools for you. And if the group here could start thinking about their questions, that would be great. Thank you so much. Can you help us with the stools? So we're going to grab some behind here. That'd be great, yeah. Okay, do we have a brave individual with the first question? Okay, so we'll start with your name and company, please. And if you have someone to direct the question to, that would be great.
Yeah, my name is Aftab Khan from Stellar Elements. Just a generic question. This problem statements that you're sharing, have you looked at solving these already? Or because you had challenges, you're trying to explore new ideas from the market?
Who do you want to answer that?
Generic question. Maybe I'll give it to Ben or Anthony.
Is it? Yeah. I'll give it a go from my end anyway. But we're always looking to solve these problems. But they're huge problems for all of society, right? So we'd be crazy to think that we had all the best ideas sitting in banking land head office. So the answer is yes. We're trying to think about them all the time. But I'm open to new ideas and different ways of thinking about them.
Look, and the same for ANZ. It's these problems continue to evolve as well. We've all put out very broad problem statements and have many facets to them. So there are always different ways that you can approach each of the problem statements. And I think we're definitely working on them. Absolutely, they're important to our customers, important to our businesses, no question. And we'll continue to work on them, but that will continue to evolve.
Hello all, my name is Samir Pradhan from Risk Associates, and my question is to Ben. Thank you for the presentation, it was lovely. Just want to understand how would you rate yourself at Westpac for the fraud scenario that you gave? How mature are you? Because the other three-letter bank that is not here, I'm a member of that bank, customer of the bank, and they are horrible. So, but I've also had a friend of mine who was impacted, and he's a Westpac customer because of the breach with Latitude Financial. The scammers created a new account, changed his mobile number at Westpac. So because it was a fraud and not, a scam, the insurance paid, and you guys did a fantastic job. But where do you see yourself as a maturity level currently, so that we can partner with you to help you overcome the?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Great question, and thanks for the compliment. I mean, we measure our detection in fraud in false positive rates. So we get it wrong. We inconvenience genuine customers when we shouldn't, and we miss some frauds. But we have books of metrics of how well we're going with this, and we do have industry benchmarking that's provided to us from some external sources on a lot of points, things like card fraud, for example. So you get a sense of where you're at in terms of your performance. And there's other things that are a bit more nebulous, like you can reduce fraud and scams by just trampling on customer experience and reducing payment speeds or payment daily limits and things like that. So there are ways that I say trampling, that's the wrong word, but some people care about limits more than others, and there will be some people that will run up against those controls. I can tell you, I mean, you're not going to believe me, but from our benchmarks, we know we do very well. I don't think anyone could ever claim to be the best at absolutely every type, because there's frauds and different types of frauds and look, it should be good news to this crowd. We spend a lot of money on the technology to do that, and we are constantly buying new stuff. A little bit to the last question, it is a hugely tech-heavy business, and we have to scrutinize everything in real time with some really amazing technology. As I say, we're doing very well, but we still make mistakes. I'm glad to hear that we were able to resolve the one for your friend. But the bad guys invest in this tech faster than we do almost. They certainly don't have to run it by a risk or compliance committee or do privacy and risk assessments. So they invest in the technology super fast. So we need to be doing the same.
The second part of my question can be for any of the banks. Even the former minister, Victor Domelo, mentioned on his LinkedIn page, when a fraud did happen and they contact the bank, there's a long hold, before an hour at least, before they can actually talk to the bank. Is there something being done to improve? Because one step is to work with the bank to come up with the solutions, but there are other things that we, even as cybersecurity organizations or supporting you, can only fix one end, but the other part depends on the banks. So it's an end-to-end solution, but the current problem statement is the banks are not easily approachable in case of a fraud or a scam. So how are you addressing that situation? Thank you.
Yeah, look at the fraud. I mean, fraudsters are always trying to surprise you. That's the whole point, right? They're trying to catch you unawares. So it's not like there's this number of frauds every single day. It comes in ebbs and flows, and there are very specific technologies that they use that can make attacks come on in a real hurry. And the algorithms and the processes will flex to that, but the human processes struggle more, right? There's some flex, but there's not infinite flex. And so, for example, I mentioned a couple of trends just in the conversation. Business email compromise came and went. Bin range card attacks are very lumpy. And so you will get flexes in that. Just to be totally honest with you, scam management, that's why it's all I seem to talk about. I'm the head of fraud and scams, but all I talk about is scams. Because it has been increasing pretty dramatically over the last few years. It has got better in the last few months, which we're very happy about. But the number of scams has grown really dramatically. And I think all banks, scam departments have struggled a little bit with that. But we've invested a lot more people. I know in our case, those wait times are much, much better than they were. I just looked at the January numbers. We're very happy with our January call wait times. Taylor Swift comes to town, and then there's a million Taylor Swift scams online. I mean, I bet you there's someone in this room that's bought fake Taylor Swift tickets, right? Like it just comes out of nowhere. And then you've got the call centers just light up with, I've just bought fake Taylor Swift tickets. So it's a bit hard to flex to some of those weird trends, things you don't see coming when she announces her tour, Maybe we should have seen that one coming.
Can I just add, one of the things that we're looking at more generically, not just on scams and frauds, but this idea of how do we use artificial intelligence to log calls, log messages coming in and monitoring live with that. And even Ben and I were talking about it just before, this idea of, using technology to listen to customers and where we do have those peaks and troughs. It never takes away from a human touch. I think that's always going to be, especially in serious matters, and that's not ever going to be anything we would ever move away from. But for dealing with volumes, I think there's technology that can help us, and we're certainly looking at that and open to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, thank you everyone. Rohit Kodancha here from ESG Data Solutions. Question, simple one. You have a full house here, a lot of proposals. So what are the ideal timelines we are looking at to hear back from you? Because we might all not be as great PPT makers as David mentioned he is. So the PPT will tell half the story or maybe even less. So will we hear back? Is there an opportunity to provide a demo, POC, etc.? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the process is going to be open for a couple of months. And I think it's not just about the companies that we say yes to, it's also the companies that we say no to. I think what would be really important is making sure that we're very transparent with the feedback in terms of, we've kind of told you what we're looking for today. Based on the volume of applications, we'll need to make sure that we provide sufficient feedback to the other companies as well, right? So I think that's going to take time. It's a bit hard to draw a really hard and rigid line to say that, we're going to close applications in 3 months or in a month or whatever, because I think we need to allow for, as Rehan mentioned, there's a lot of interest in companies here in New South Wales, potentially in other states. And then we've also heard that there's going to be companies overseas as well. So we need to make sure that we give everybody a sufficient chance to apply, and also to make sure that we apply the right rigor. And also there'll probably be times where we'll need to actually talk to you as well, right? So we don't see this as being an application process like you would apply for a job interview and then we'll reject you. I think there's going to be a bit more depth, a bit more conversation. I think the value is actually in the conversation. And so we want to make sure that we allow time to explore and have that detailed conversation. And then as I mentioned earlier as well, it's also about giving sufficient time to make sure that we engage a couple of people, have the right discussions, and then being fair with everyone else that's put in a lot of time to apply for the process to make sure that they get the right feedback, for their benefit as well. I don't know, Rod, was there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Rohit, I think your question is a very good one, and it's probably very relevant to many others in the room too. So something that I'd certainly echo David's thoughts. Something else that I'm very cognizant of, we in Growth Labs are very aware of the fact that, we're talking to relatively small businesses in the scheme of things. Your runway is only so long. We're very cognizant of that with your time. So I think it's quite important through this application process to be right-sizing the application for your firm. So please don't necessarily try and put your best foot forward. And this is an excellent opportunity. It's a catalyst. It's a means of kind of communicating with us, possibly getting a new channel that you wouldn't have had previously. But at the same time, you don't necessarily have to have reams of information. In fact, that could actually be to your detriment. So it's really about conveying the relevance to the problem statements. Try to find that right fit with us. And then, as David was saying, we too go through that much the same process about, a much more collegiate, collaborative style conversation. If we think that there's like a high degree of relevance, then we will be talking to you. We will be reaching out. It is very much an open conversation. It's deeply collaborative. And something else as well is, if you we are certainly very interested in about the maturity of your product right now, but the roadmap as well, is also super important. So if you've got ideas, in terms of where you're heading, that please tell us about that as well, because it's, I suppose, to some extent it gets discounted a little bit, but also we are very interested in where the business is heading. I think we're quite aligned on that.
Yeah, I mean, and the only other thing that I'll add, I guess, from our perspective as well is we're not entering into a full-blown commercial agreement, right? So there is scope to take it slow, to experiment, to test and learn, and really do it iteratively. So it's not like a typical RFP process where we expect loads of documentation. It's like we're going to go through a dating process and then you're going to be the person that we're going to marry. It's like it's actually working together, iterating through the solution, making sure that we both have comfort throughout the process. It is going to be an incremental process as well. So maybe that's also something to consider within I guess, your response.
My name's Simon. I'm from a clean tech scale-up called Powerfy, and I certainly echo Rehan's, I think, opening comments that it's lovely to be pitched to instead of pitching. My question is to Anthony, and one of the questions that one of the points we're told to often address is the size of the market. And I was just wondering if you had any kind of high-level figures about the number of SMEs that you have on your books and the number maybe who come to you, or conversely the numbers you would like to come to you.
Yeah, firstly, credit to all of you guys. It's energy sapping to get up here and put your best foot forward, right? So I couldn't do it full time, so well done on that point. But to your question, yeah, so from our small business market, so in Westpac, we bank a couple 100,000 small business customers. So there's reasonable scale there, and our whole business bank is larger than that. I don't have any specifics about those that come to us and speak about sustainability, but we have done some deep market research in the SME market to understand them a bit better. Much like consumers, there are different archetypes. You know, there's the early adopters, those that are really keen to push the boundaries of their business, and then there's the mass market. Where we're at the moment is we think we're moving out of the early adopter stage towards that mass market movement. So we're starting to see a little bit more activity. So that's why we're really interested in making sure that we do have the right support network available for those customers, because we will get more questions for our bankers.
Hi, I'm Tom from Greener. I've got a question for both Anthony and Cindy. Have you guys worked with startups before and brought a product to market? And if so, how did you do it? And what were the outcomes?
Look, I can start. And the honest answer is no, I haven't. But you know, working with Rod, I'll pass that part of the question to you, but me personally, no.
Maybe we'll complete the answer to the question. So we have brought a number of propositions to market over time. Have we done it in sustainability? No, and that was kind of part of my talking points tonight. That I think this is to some extent a new generation, a new wave, hopefully an array of new opportunities. It's a difficult thing, like we are moving into how do you commercialize this? How do you kind of make sure that the stars align for all parties? Because we are just as much wanting to work for the partners with whom we're working. This needs to be genuinely mutually beneficial. Now, what does it look like? So for me, often it'll be multiple parties. So you're not really just doing a single bilateral arrangement. Often a new proposition has many kind of facets to it, and it grows dynamically and organically over time. And then gradually you might even kind of weave in more and more partners. Some of those partners end up being suppliers to us, and so they'll be kind of behind the scenes. So it's Westpac, front door. So that's one version of it. It's quite common. Typically it'd be kind of technology vendor style arrangement. But even with a FinTech or a clean tech, they could be behind the scenes in that same kind of model. Now, there are other models which are genuine partnerships where we might be doing kind of referral agreements where business might be on an introducer basis, flowing in one direction or another. Us to you, or you to us. They are quite challenging models to deal with, because it's not just the kind of people that you're on the phone call with like us, that are kind of dealing with this. We have to think about our broader workforce. How do you make sure they're aware of your product in market? How do we kind of make sure that awareness and education is sustained, et cetera? Or how do we digitally deliver that? So it's quite evolved. Of course, we also have to manifest it. Ultimately, most of the time it kind of manifests through our digital channels. So how do you kind of bring that to bear inside our channels? Is that an authenticated experience behind, mobile banking, for example, or is it separate? So it's pretty heavy. There's a lot to it. I know that you've got your partnerships kind of coming to bear with, other banks, so that's great stuff. I think there's probably one last thing to mention now is liability. So as much as we would love to kind of be introducing, solar panel installers, we do need to also think about, insulation. I mean this in the sense of liability. So we've got to be super careful about, where we can play in what circumstances, because naturally things, when you're trying to operate at scale, can go wrong. And so that does become one of the thought processes for us, particularly in the sustainability space. Yeah. So.
I might just add a different element from ANZ's perspective. We certainly in the commercial division have many partnership arrangements, not specifically in the ESG or green technology space, but absolutely Xero being an example of one, and there's a multitude of others that we have strategic referral partnerships with. And certainly now that we've become quite clear on our problem statement for our business owners, our sustainable finance team is quite different. They're market leaders in providing sustainable finance solutions. But when we think about our problem statement to the broader small to medium-sized enterprise owners, there's 2 million in Australia. We have 600,000 of them. Then we're now in that position to begin partnerships. So I have been working very closely with our team at 1835i, and I may just turn to David to talk a little bit more about those collaborations.
I think that's a really good and valid question, because it does come down to how do you integrate different cultures. We know that a large organization has a different type of culture because the complexity of running a business that's scalable, that's compliant, that's regulated is different to an organization that's much smaller, that maybe has less complications or technical infrastructure or legacy to deal with. So 1835i, I think we have about 12 companies in our portfolio. They range from really complicated, sophisticated businesses to small companies like Slip, for example, or Wheel. Recently, we had a team of people fly to New Zealand to help one of the businesses that we work very closely with, and that was really around helping them structure their business, help them forward plan, and really help them be able to work with ANZ. So our core role is effectively understanding how startups work. We're founders, we've come from startup backgrounds, we know the ecosystem pretty well. So really trying to bridge that gap is really the glue and value that we provide. We've also created a business from scratch on our own, and we've had to try to bring that back to the bank. And that was pretty painful, but there's been lots of learnings, right? So the business that I'm talking about is Dataco, and that's really about the ability to share data, desensitized data across multiple organizations, multiple parties. We created that business from scratch, and then we thought, because we created it from scratch and it's 1835i, we can work very easily with ANZ. We had to go through the exact same rigor that you would have to go through too. So there's been a lot of learnings on our end, a lot of frustrations, but that's kind of the value that we bring into the engagement. And that's why we're working so closely with ANZ.
Sorry to jump in. We'll just have 2 more questions, Tori, and then we'll need to wrap up.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and great talks. My name's Lockie Burke. I'm the co-founder and CEO at a company called NetNata, and we help businesses and their supply chains automate their environmental and social impact analysis. Just a question for both banks. Wondering what your perspective is on non-competes and, I guess locking in startups to work with you.
It's an absolutely fair question. So there's a couple of things around non-competes and also intellectual property. Those 2 things do tend to come up. All right. So non-competes, it's quite like we need to be very cognizant of where you're at. As a business, like if you're starting up an early stage business, the last thing you want to do is completely lock yourself in, to an exclusive arrangement with a single bank. I think these days we're pretty mature about that, and we tend not to lock parties down, unless there's, something really strategically important that you might have co-developed. It does flow over to intellectual property as well. So often this comes up, so it's quite typical, like if you do get to that advanced stage, that the intellectual property that your firm has developed and you come to us with, that remains yours, right? And the same thing, IP from us remains ours. So then it's only under this new contractual arrangement that you might be kind of co-developing new IP. And that's where you kind of start to get some new arrangements, you start to kind of work out contractually how you kind of manage that. But very importantly, any IP that you've already got remains yours, when you bring it to us in the first case. So a couple of really key things there. And hopefully that answers your question, but happy to kind of go through it in more detail at the drinks.
I hate to say it, but I would agree with Rod as well. I'm going to take a slightly different lens on that question. And if I put myself into the founder shoes, I would say don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? So as a founder, you need to make sure that you talk to the different banks, try to see who's the right fit for you. It's not just about you having the best solution in the world, but also the best solution for the bank that you're working with, right? So that will take time. Once you find that there's alignment with the company that you want to work with, then you go through processes like NDAs and contract agreements. That's when you start talking about all the things that you talked about with IP and all that stuff, right? But there's an earlier stage to that, which is sort of where we're at now. And as a founder, I would suggest, having lots of different conversations, not just with the banks here, but also maybe with other lenders or other players in the space, so that you can build product market fit, build more certainty in your product. I don't know how mature you are within your business, but as a founder, those are the types of things that I would be doing.
We've got time for one more question.
Hi, this is Sumiti. I'm head of product from Google Plus. I think most of my questions are actually answered already. One question is, so basically, I just wanted to ask, how ready are you guys to have a fintech partnering with you? So basically what I'm talking about is not Rohit's question, is to get to a decision, but this is more on how ready are you post-decision? Because I think I come from a place and worked in fintech. I worked for a bank. And one of the reasons personally for me as the product was I really needed to get the product out in the market. So, and that's the pace question basically. So just wanted to hear what your feedback is around the actual delivery post the decision and how readiness around you guys.
Well, I mean, I think that's definitely one more for David, but I'm going to give the bank's perspective, given that's your experience. The question was raised earlier about, are we solving this ourselves? And yes, we do have a lot of investment, as Pip mentioned, in our digital and technology teams. But we really do actually believe in the power of the ecosystem and the creativity in terms of this collaboration. So yes, I as a banker in the organization, I think we are ready for it. Are there lots of processes? Because we're a bank, yes, but that doesn't mean culturally that we're not ready to take that step.
And the other thing I'll add, which I'll probably hand to Jarrod as well, is the technical infrastructure. I think the important part to this is we've got the right culture, we've got the right decision, we've found the right company, but technically can we enable something? And I'll let Jarrod talk about Blue Space and some of the stuff that we're already doing today with some of the companies in the pipeline.
Firstly, Cindy's comment, I think certainly ready to start, at the very least, the journey. We've done a lot of work in a pretty short period of time as an innovation team within transaction banking to try to address this as a problem. How can we move at a pace that a potential partner will need to move at to validate their solution, be able to experiment and prototype. So in a very short period of time, we've stood up a sandbox environment, which we're continuing to develop at the moment. But the intent of that is that it will be a channel or a platform for us to co-create and collaborate with fintechs using synthetic data, sits outside of the ANZ tech stack ecosystem, so it enables us to accelerate towards experimentation. That's the intent. We've just started to onboard fintechs on a few different problem statements to these ones. So yes, I mean, in short, yes, we want to move at pace in step with our potential fintech partners, but it is a journey. We're still a highly regulated institution that has a lot of, very intense and important risk processes to assess.
I also think that it depends on what that solution looks like. So depending on the type of integration that we would require with our own tech platforms, will kind of determine what that roadmap looks like and that time span. But I think from a readiness to receive different ideas and readiness to start investing in those type of solutions, I think we're ready there.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why, as the Group Chief Technology Officer, it sits in my space because, as you would all imagine, enabling that integration, getting the cyber stuff sorted out, procurement sits in my space as well, the tech procurement. So we tried to orchestrate all the enablers together. And that's part of us thinking about innovation, how we scale that inside Westpac, not just for fintechs, but for ourselves. So I think, it's great that we're here to help, my 3 business colleagues here. That's our job, is to make them successful. And we'll make sure those sorts of things in place. Westpac has a good history of working with lots of fintechs in many sectors. So it's certainly within our credentials to do this well. Rod?
Yeah, and I think for an innovation function or a partnerships function like Growth Labs, we're going to be inherently biased, but we're tipped towards optimism, and it's that optimism, which is the same thing that you find inside the fintech community, is the same thing you find in clean tech. It's that willingness to drive forward. That's what we want to. So we're inherently biased, but that bias actually kind of manifests in action. It kind of leads to events like this. You've got drivers behind it. I think we've got quite a lot of pedigree in this space. Like we actually have done quite a lot before. And so look, I absolutely think, we are ready. We can do it again. There's lots of moving parts inside a big bank like ours, but absolutely we're ready for it. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you so much. I just need your attention for 30 more seconds. Firstly, if all the panelists could please look at this camera, and David Walker, if you would like to jump in for the photo as well, that would be great. While we're there, from my side and from FinTech Australia, a huge thank you to Investment New South Wales, ANZ, Westpac and 1835i. Thank you to all of our members for making it all happen, and for the amazing cheese. And for the amazing participation of all you in attending tonight, and your hard work over the next few weeks or months in these proposals, discussions that you have with the banks, and therefore, thereafter, success, hopefully. So please do hang around, have a FinTech Australia draft, mingle with the panel, and we'll go from there. But firstly, round of applause. Thank you very much.